Hi there, folks, and welcome to another Virtual Photo Club photo talk. Tonight we have Emma Finch joining us back again. She has done a talk for us before, very well received, so I'm delighted to have her back in. Tonight, however, we are going on a very different topic, and we're going to be looking at boudoir photography. So without any further ado, Emma, I will hand over to yourself, and you can tell us all about it in your unique way.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks.
Right, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you'll be able to see it. One second. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I can see that fine.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Emma Finch. Thank you, Andy, for having me back again. So the first time I was here, I think I was talking about child photography. So this is the other side of my personality, which is my boudoir photography. So tonight's talk's called Confessions of a Boudoir Photographer. I'm going to sort of tell you all about what I do and why I do it and why women do it. And if you've got any questions, just ask away. So I'll just introduce myself first of all. So this is me. My business is called Belle Privé Photography, and I specialise in commercial lingerie, boudoir, some vintage and female portraiture. It's all very stylised. It's studio based. My studio is in central Manchester. I turned professional about 10 years ago, and I started shooting children and families. So my first business was Emma Finch Photography. That's all on location, natural light, very different from what I'm going to talk about tonight. It's all been word of mouth. Once I got to grips with the natural light photography and the business was more established, I wanted to learn studio lighting. So I spent a year in the studio sort of teaching myself how to light, working with models, and launched Belle Privé Photography in 2016. This is the business that I'm most passionate about. This is the one that gets me the awards, it gets me the publications, I bring in the sort of European clients. So this is a much bigger business for me than my other business. So I work predominantly from my Manchester studio. I do sometimes work on location as well. And as I say, I work with private clients, but also with commercial lingerie brands as well. I also teach photography and portrait photography and lighting through photography session days, and we plan photography events. So I'm very busy. I love what I do, and everything fits together mostly very nicely, and keeps me out of trouble. So that's who I am, what I do. Just to show you the two different styles of my photography. On the left, Emma Finch Photography, very cute children, natural light, natural candid images. And then on the right, Belle Privé Photography, which is very stylized, working with women in the studio, very controlled lighting, working with a hair and makeup artist and a stylist. So the two sides of my split personality there with the two different brands. Just a few of my achievements. So just found out that I'm another national finalist this year for Founders Cup 2022, also last year as well, 2021, finalist Portrait of the Year 2020 and 2019. I've had over 50 international publications, including 7 front covers. I used to be the photographer for Vintage Life magazine, which sadly is no more. And the most interesting place I've ever shot was was at the Houses of Parliament for a project in Manchester to bring the Emmeline Pankhurst statue to Manchester. So that's the most exciting place I've ever shot. Just a few of my achievements there before I go on to talking about what I'm here to talk about, which is boudoir photography. So just to introduce what boudoir photography is. Now, I'm guessing some of you are boudoir photographers, some of you want to do boudoir or have tried boudoir, some of you may have modelled in a boudoir photo shoot. Some people won't have a clue what I'm talking about or what it actually is really. So boudoir photography, sensual, romantic or intimate images of women, often in lingerie, but not always, and often taken for personal reasons. And I'm going to come on to why women choose to do it, and some major misconceptions around the subject a little bit later on. But in a nutshell, that's what boudoir photography is. A brief history pardon the pun, of boudoir photography. So it started in France around 1890. It was highly taboo, very illegal. People thought it was porn. So it was men shooting the female form for their own gratification, really. They started to sell postcards under the counter in Paris. Of course, these became highly sought after items because they were illegal. Around the same time, they had the rise of the burlesque performers, the original pin-up girls, and they used to use images of themselves scantily clad on cards and leave them backstage and bars to advertise the shows. Fast forward to the 40s and 50s, the pin-ups really came into their own. This is the era that I absolutely love. So the pin-ups were used to keep up the male morale during the war. They became part of popular culture. They're often in their underwear, the stockings and the basques and suspenders. It became more widely accepted. So you have artists like Elvgren and Vargas who become more mainstream. You've got the nose art on the aeroplanes of these pin-up girls. So it started to become a little bit less taboo. Then, of course, you got Playboy. It had a huge cultural impact, still all for the male gaze, but again, bringing it more into the sort of wider world, less sort of underground. 60s and 70s, you've got the sexual revolution. So you've got feminism growing. You've got really strong provocative sex symbols like Sophia Loren and Brigitte Bardot. Women saw sexual liberation as a form of rebellion against the patriarchy. So nudity became more accepted widely. And then fast forward to today, the popularity of boudoir has grown so much that almost every woman that I know has done it or would like to do it or want to do it but daren't do it. And it's become a symbol of sexual freedom and body confidence. And we'll come on to the reasons why people do it in a minute. But in a nutshell, that's the history of boudoir. So why do women book? And it's not always what you think, actually. I always say to clients, it's more than just images, and it really is. And that sounds a little bit cheesy and a little bit cliched. I don't shoot for men. I shoot for women. I want women to enjoy my work. I want women to want to be shot by me and to appreciate what I do. So very rarely are my clients coming to shoot for images for their partner. Some do, but most of them don't. So some are coming to celebrate their body. They've lost weight, they've gained weight, they've I don't know, had a cosmetic procedure, but they're happy with their body and they want to show it off. They've worked hard to get there. Post-mastectomy, clients who've gone through an ordeal with their body, and again, they want to celebrate what their body has done for them, and they want to celebrate how they look. A confidence boost. Probably one of the main reasons. I get a lot of people coming on their 40th birthday, their 50th birthday. They want to treat themselves. They've just got divorced. I get more divorcees than I think I do brides. They want to just show themselves as this sort of beautiful sexual being. Quite often, no one's going to see the images but themselves. But it's the psychology behind what they're doing. Some models obviously book on, they need a portfolio boost, or they want to get published in a magazine. But quite often it's women shooting for, I always ask them why they're coming and what are they going to do with the images. And quite often it's just for themselves. So one woman booked a shoot, and when she arrived, she was about in her 60s, long grey hair. She looked like a librarian, no makeup. She'd never worn makeup in her life. And of course, when you're having an experience like this, it's a lot of makeup, it's the hair and makeup, it's the lighting. I thought, she's going to hate this. She's never worn makeup in her entire life. And my makeup artist is about to make her look almost like a drag queen. They use a lot more makeup than you would in everyday life in order for it to come across on camera. So with studio lights, it tends to sort of blend a little bit. So you go a bit more with the makeup. So I was quite nervous for her because I thought, I'm not sure how this is going to go down. Anyway, did the shoot. She looked fantastic. At the end of the shoot, she started dancing around the studio. I thought, oh, and then she started to cry. I thought, oh no, what's happened? And And she said, I've never felt beautiful in my life, and today I feel beautiful. And she just was so free and so just so pleased that, you know, I think she'd had a very bad past, a very bad history, and that up until this point, to 60, whatever she was, she hadn't felt beautiful or desired or all the rest of it. So for her, the images were just a byproduct of the experience. It was quite there's psychology behind a lot of the reasons why women book a boudoir shoot, and actually it's very rewarding career. It really is. I see clients come in really nervous, deer in the headlights, and walk out sashaying down the corridor. You know, it's a real confidence boost. I'm not just shooting sexy images for men, for the boyfriend, for the partner, the husband, or whatever. There's so much more to it, and it's quite a misunderstood genre, I think. So the misconceptions. I'm quite protective of my genre. I know it's got a bad reputation. It's the domain of the man with cam, who's sort of shooting for his own gratification with little skill and little progression with the lighting and with the posing. So things that I've had said to me, I'm shooting for men, it's all for the male gaze. That's not true. That's not true at all. All my women are shooting for themselves. I shoot because I know how women want to look. I don't shoot. I sound really feminist. I'm not really, but I'm not. I know men do appreciate my work, but it's a slight difference to how I shoot when I'm shooting for women. If I was shooting for men, it would be a slightly different style of posing. I've had it's anti-feminist. It really isn't. These women are strong, powerful women. I only show that in my images. I very rarely have them lying on a bed. I would never do any kind of bondage or in a vintage kitchen or anything like that, because it goes against my brand. My brand is strong, independent women, and that I hopefully that shows in the way that I pose people and how I choose to shoot and what I show in my portfolio. So it's all about empowering women. I've had it subjectifying women, and I don't know, some people are going to say it is. I don't think it is. This women are doing it for themselves. They do with the images what they want to. So it's only for women in their 20s with amazing bodies. Again, my biggest clients, biggest as in the ones that spend the most money, are usually in their 50s, 60s. The kicker is I can never share those images. Most of my clients are wanting to keep it private, which is perfectly fine. So a lot of my portfolio is made up of models, hence the women, youngish women with, who are fairly slim. I would love to be able to show some of my other work, but unfortunately that's the nature of what I do, is that most of the work is kept private. I've had it's degrading to women, it's not empowering, and I think that's someone who hasn't understood what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and why the women are choosing to do it. It really is an empowering experience. In fact, it's quite an addictive experience, I find. Once the client's done it once and they're really nervous, and you can see how nervous they are, they do it and they feel so good. And they see the images and think, wow, is that really me? Is that what I actually look like? And I do minimal Photoshop work. In fact, so much so that they choose their images from the raw images that I've taken. So I'm happy enough to show them the raw images. And that is you, that's what you actually look like. It's a really empowering feeling. And then the other thing that I fight against quite a lot is it's not a proper genre. I think I'm on a one-woman crusade to sort of try and change people's conception or perception of boudoir photography. I'm trying to get the awards and getting these sort of to try and get in these big titles with photographic associations, so that I can show that you can be a good photographer and produce great work from this genre. There's a lot of bad work out there as well, but it's a difficult genre. You're dealing with women who are nervous. There's a lot of skin on show. Hence, you've got to light it right. You've got to edit it right. the pose has got to be perfect in order to flatter the body. So there's a lot of skill involved, and I think sometimes it's dismissed a little bit. But we'll see how it progresses. But I think I'm about the only person entering boudoir images into these national competitions. So putting clients at ease. A lot of clients have never done a photo shoot before. They are nervous, and it really shows. So try and get them as prepared as possible beforehand. And this goes for whatever you're shooting, whether it's boudoir or portraiture. If you're working with people, being as prepared as possible is key. So we always have a pre-shoot consultation. So I want to know what kind of lighting are they drawn to, what kind of mood are they into, what's their favorite body part. And in asking them what their favorite body part is, they'll quite often tell me what they don't like as well. I would never say what don't you like, because I don't want to focus on the negatives, but I ask what they do like, then you find out probably what they don't like as well. We talk about hair and makeup and what colours they're going to bring and ideas. Basically get as much information as possible so that I can try and tailor the shoot to them, and so that managing expectations and they know what they're going to get, and I know what she really wants. So we'll discuss lingerie, and obviously I'm not going to talk about lingerie today, it's a photography talk, but if you're interested in knowing more about what works and what doesn't work, there's blogs on my website. But again, that's a whole minefield. I always want clients to bring their own. I know some studios have a whole range of outfits in the studio, but for me, I think a big part of the shoot is preparing for the shoot and going out shopping and buying things that you're happy with, that you're confident with, things that you can keep. I wouldn't want to be wearing someone else's knickers, so I wouldn't ask clients to be doing that either. So they will bring their own. I also send them a list on how to prep. Always advise against fake tan. Fake tan never comes across well on camera. It comes across as orange. So if you fake tan, I'm just going to take it off again when I'm editing, because it just doesn't work on camera. Manicure, always encourage a manicure and a pedicure. Hands are in almost all of my images, and I've always got the hands up by the face somewhere. Even though I'm shooting lingerie, I'm ultimately a portrait photographer, so I'm always focused on the face. It's always about the face with me. So hands are often quite up near the face. So you do want manicured nails. That nails will ruin it if they're not tidy. So basically, giving them as much information as possible. Drink lots of water and eat something before you come, and get a good night's rest and things like that are going to make them more glowing on camera and more ready to shoot. So I give them as much information as possible. Anything that I've ever been asked before, I'll make sure that they've got that information beforehand. They know where they're coming, they know what to expect, they know how the schedule of what I do and how I work and that kind of thing. And then send them the checklist again for the night before, so they know what they need to bring with them. And I always advise bring more outfits than you need. Don't forget jewelry, things like that. Make sure you've cut the label out of the clothes. There's always a label hanging, and it takes forever to Photoshop it. Make sure there's no ladder in the stockings. Try it on before you get there. I've had clients come and then they've tried it on in the studio. Oh, there's something wrong with it. It doesn't fit right, or there's a hole in it, or someone put some stockings on and the whole top came off the stocking, so I had to literally sellotape the top of the stockings back on and then Photoshop it. So try and give them as much information as possible so that they will come as prepared as possible, because that will help on the day.
Imagine that's not one you normally prepare for, is it, having sellotape to hand?
So I've got everything to hand, literally everything, because you never know what you're going to need. So, but yeah, I didn't think I'd be sellotaping the stockings back together again. You got to be prepared for these things. So yeah, trying to put them at ease. So the studio is not huge, but always have it warm. When I was looking for a studio of my own, there was lots of great big mill spaces, great spaces, but cold. I hate being cold, and I've got my clothes on, so I wouldn't have my clients. cold, because it's just not comfortable. So the studio is always warm, and I always have it as tidy as I possibly can. I've got soft furnishings and rugs on the floor and things like that. So try and make it not look too overfacing as a photography studio. I don't have all my lights up until I need them. So it's like walking into I don't know, a sort of small New York loft apartment. It's in an old mill building in Manchester, but I've got a great big industrial window, but there's a lot of soft furnishings in there. It's quite cozy. So it's always warm, it's always tidy. I've got a makeup and change area. And as I was saying, Andy, I've got everything you could possibly need, everything that a client might possibly have forgotten at home, try and have it there ready. So when she comes in, have a drink, we'll talk about what we're going to do, we'll hang up any outfits. They still look terrified. Then she'll go into the makeup room with my makeup artist. So hair and makeup can take an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that's a long time. So makeup artist is chatty. The studio is right, sort of, well, the makeup area is just off the studio anyway. So I'm sort of chatting, and basically the more you talk, the more they relax. It's a very girly sort of environment, and so you can see them start to relax. So when they've had the hair and makeup, they are looking fabulous. They're feeling good. They're looking good. Still a little bit nervous because they haven't done a photo shoot before. So I'll get them to put on a robe. If they've got anything on that's going to leave marks, I'll get them to put the robe on before they do the hair and makeup, because otherwise, you end up editing out sock marks and elasticated waists and things like that. So so maybe get them to put the robe on before the hair and makeup. So they're a long time in the studio before I even click the shutter. What I would usually, the first couple of shots, I will tell them I'm just going to check the lighting. Now I know the lighting's right because I've had the 2 hours to set up the lights and they're ready to go. But I want them to know what it feels like to be in front of my camera. I want them to know what it's like with the cameras, with the lights flashing, how I am, how it feels to be in front of the camera. Not very many of them have done a photo shoot before. And it's quite intense with, the big studio lights flashing and this and that. So I want them to get used to how it feels. I'll chat, take a few pictures, chat. I just tell them I'm testing lights, but what I'm actually doing is just getting them used to how it feels. The first set, you can see them relaxed a little bit, and then literally by the end of the shoot, they're posing like a professional. I don't have to guide them at all because they know what I'm going to say. The makeup artist goes when she's done the hair and makeup, so it's just my client and I in the studio at any one point. And I find that just talking, I always have my camera. This is the same as what I do with kids, actually. I always have my camera ready. Those earrings are really great. Your hair's really shiny, your eyes are really, but whatever sort of compliment you want to give. Genuine compliments. If I'm thinking it in my head, I say it out loud. And you can see the little sparkle in their eye when you give a compliment, and you can see them, and then they start to feel good, and they start to know that they look good. And you can see them relax through the shoot, and they really get into it. Even the most nervous, the girl on yesterday, she was literally shaking when she came in. I think she was thinking, oh my God, why have I paid this photographer money to do this? She was shaking. She looked spectacular. She looked like a supermodel. And by the end of it, she was just posing. She was posing away. I was like, you don't even need me. You're posing like a professional. So they do. The clients, they always relax into it, and they always look good. They know they look good. So skiing. So with boudoir photography, we tend to think of underwear, but it really doesn't have to be this skimpiest little G-string out there. Sometimes wearing more is sexier, I think. So clients will bring dresses. The white shirt is always popular. It's sexy, but it's covered up. The white sheet is really, really popular. So that's when I would put the bed set out with the white sheet. You can be as covered as you want to be. But it's still sexy because it's all in the mind. You can't actually see anything. All you can see is the head and shoulders, but it's all implied as she's naked under there. She's not naked under there. She's probably just got a t-shirt rolled down or something, but you can't see that. So the white sheet shoot is very popular, especially with people who don't want to show too much, or they're not sure about this or not sure about that. So they can cover what they want to cover and they can show what they want to show. Other things, oversized jumper, a robe, you know, sexy, you can have it off the shoulder. You're not actually showing anything, but it's still that sort of tease, I suppose. You know, a jacket. When I say birthday suit, I don't shoot full nude, implied. So it looks like they're naked, but they're not actually naked. But there's the whole spectrum, and clients do. They don't all come with just you know, knickers and bra. So there's a whole range of different outfits that they can bring, depending on how body confident they are, really, and also what they want to show. I had one client who came for her 40th birthday, and she couldn't show her knees because her mum would go mad. I think she's from quite a strict religious family, and we had to be really careful. Anything sort of neck to knee wasn't on show. So we did the white sheet, and you just head and she still said her mum would go mad that the head and shoulders were on show, but you couldn't see anything. So beauty. So I always work with a hair and makeup artist. Makeup needs to be a lot heavier than what you would wear day to day. So my makeup artists are skilled in photo shoot makeup, which tends to be heavier. Real emphasis on the lips and the eyes, making the eyes look bigger, making the lips stand out. But they would never use anything shimmery or glittery. Anything shimmery or glittery is going to make you look shiny with the studio lights, make you look a bit sweaty, which is not what we're after. Fake tans, I've mentioned before, is a big no-no. I do tell people not to fake tan. They still do, and then they come with the orange hands, which is a nightmare to try and edit. It's just don't do it.
Do you go through a lot of the white sheets then?
Well, I don't mention the white sheet if they come in with orange. Yeah, manicure and pedicure. It makes all the difference to have polished hands and feet are in almost all of it. So I really do encourage that, and always tell them to bring more outfits than they need to, and bring a variety of different things with them. And whatever they bring, I do try and shoot. We'll try and squeeze it in. If they brought it with them, then it means something to them. So I will try and shoot it. But yeah, jewelry or heels. Quite often they'll forget heels, and sometimes heels can make an outfit, and also helps with posture as well. So heels are important. And as I mentioned before, cutting the tags from the lingerie is really important, because there's always hanging out with it. And trying it on beforehand is really important as well, which an awful lot of people don't seem to do. They spend all this money on me, and then they get there and it doesn't fit them properly, or they've forgotten something, or anyway. So to the photography now. So some general tips. So as I mentioned before, I'm inherently a portrait photographer through and through. So I will always focus on the eyes. I know boudoir photography is very body centric, but I still like the face. I like the face in it. So always focus on the eyes. If the eyes aren't sharp, then it's not really going to be a usable image. To reduce the dark circles under eyes, a reflector underneath will bounce the light back up into the face. It's also good for older clients with wrinkles. It just bounces up, it softens that, it softens some of the creases, and is more flattering. Always try and get catch lights in the eyes, just to make eyes look alive. So wherever you're shooting, you want that sparkle of light, whether it's from the sun or from the artificial light. You always want a catch light. You never want too much whites in the eyes. So if they're turned away and looking at you, they need to turn their head a little bit as well. You want the pupil sort of in the middle of the eye. Too much whites is a no-no in portrait photography, and can sometimes make them look a little bit, it's not the most flattering anyway. If you've got a blinker, or if you've got someone who is just terrified, like I did yesterday, and really wide-eyed and really scared to start with, I'll get them to close their eyes, count to 3, and then ask them to open their eyes slowly and look straight into the lens. So 3, 2, 1, open. They'll open their eyes slowly, straight into the lens. One, you won't get a blink if you're dealing with a blinker. Two, if it's someone who is terrified, you'll get quite a sultry look. That sort of slightly sleepy, sultry look, and it also relaxes them a little bit, because I think to start with, certainly on a first set, they're not quite sure what to do with the face, and it's just a way to sort of get that look without the terrified look in their eye. Generally speaking, I will always shoot at eye level. So wherever they are, I will be at eye level. I sometimes will shoot slightly lower with women to make them look strong and powerful in the image. As I say, it's quite a theme, hopefully, throughout my work, is that I want the women to look strong and in control. Very occasionally, if someone's very conscious of a double chin, I'll shoot slightly higher than eye level, just because it gives nice definition under the chin, and put the light slightly higher, so you get a nice shadow under the chin as well. So depending on what clients have told me they like or don't like about themselves, I'll adjust my position. So if someone was slightly bigger, I wouldn't shoot lower, because it would make them look a little bit bigger than they were. So I adjust my shooting position depending on what they've told me. And watching tension in the mouth. So when we start out and they're nervous, the tension will be in the mouth, it'll be in the shoulders, it'll be in the hands. So that's just a case of talking them, talking to them, chat, click, compliment, chat, click, and you can see them relax. So with hands, they could have a beautiful face, but if their hand is clenched into a fist, or it's in, like a bunch of bananas, or it's the spatula, then it's going to detract from the image. So do watch the details and watch the hands, because they can make or break an image. Lighting. So this is the kit that I use. So my main body is Canon 5D Mark IV. My second body is 5D Mark III. Go-to lens in the studio is the 2470 2.8. I do have the 70-200. I use that more outdoors, to be honest. The studio isn't huge, so the 2470 is fine for what I need. I do also have the 50mm 1.4, which I sometimes use for artier shots, especially with boudoir photography. So sometimes sort of if I go right above them and sort of shoot on a 1.4, just catch the lashes, and then the rest of it goes to sort of arty blurriness. They're quite popular images. So I think clients will come thinking, no, I want body shots, I want this lingerie, but actually if you give them a few unusual beauty portraits, they quite often buy them because it's something different, it's not what they're expecting, and also it's something that maybe they could show their mum or dad, or maybe they could put it on Facebook, and there's nothing too risque about it. So I will always try and do some sort of beauty portrait as well at the same time, especially when they've got the hair and makeup all done. So it's worth doing that. So I'll use the 50mm 1.4 for that sometimes. The lights that I use in the studio are the Pixapro Pica 200s. I've got 4 of those. I do use as little lighting as possible, quite often 1 light or 2 lights, just because my preferred style is quite dark and moody anyway. And also it's not a huge studio, so I don't want too many lights going off at once. Modifier of choice is the 47-inch Octabox. So that is a soft light modifier, very flattering on skin, very easy to use. Hard light modifier is the Gritty Beauty Dish or the Snoot, and I use that more for more dramatic lighting, for noir lighting. I'll come on to that a little bit later, but generally speaking, for boudoir, we want the most flattering lighting, which tends to be the Octabox, just because it's diffused in so many ways. So the light goes in the back, it goes through, it bounces around the silver on the inside, and then there's 2 layers of white gauze on the outside. So it's a really soft diffused light, and it's easy to use, and it's very flattering. So just going to touch on different lighting styles. starting with outdoors, which is of course the easiest. So this was shot at the Oxford Conference of Corsetry. This is Jesus College in Oxford, ivory flame model there. It's absolutely beautiful. So the best time of day to shoot, if you possibly can, is golden hour. Now, I don't often shoot lingerie outdoors, very rarely, to be honest, not with a client, usually with a model. Bright sunshine can be horribly unflattering, creates lots of harsh shadows. So we want to be looking for the softer light. So this, when I shot this image, it was literally the hottest day of the year. It must have been mid-30s. It was so hot, and it was in the quadrant at Jesus College. Half of the quadrant was in blinding sunshine, the other half was in shade. So of course we go to the shady side. We're using the soft light, and it's a beautiful even light on her. I wouldn't try and shoot in the harsh light. It's not flattering. So you either get person squinting into the sun, or you get the harsh shadows, or their silhouette if you've got the sun behind them. So it's a nightmare to shoot in. I tend to use the palm of my hand to see how the light is going to fall on a subject's face. So I'll sort of just move around like this, watch how the light hits my hand, and hits my hand, generally speaking, is how it's going to hit someone's face. So you can see where the best light is. So that's outdoor lighting, which I don't do an awful lot of, not for this brand. This is natural light indoors. Now, this is something that you might want to consider for boudoir photography. So this is me standing with my back to the great big industrial window, and she's facing the window. So it's 100% daylight. So you can see it's a lovely even light on her. Daylight is 5,500 Kelvin, so it's quite a cool bluish light, which is quite flattering on skin tones. So it tends to take down, if there's sort of pink in the skin or yellow in the skin, it tends to take down the color a little bit. So it's a nice even light. It's flattering for all ages. For clients who are a little bit nervous, maybe it's a nice way to start, because there's no great big flashes or studio lights being brought in, it's just facing the window. You obviously have to shoot a little bit higher ISO than you would with studio lights, slightly wider aperture, but nothing crazy. And this backdrop here is just where my studio is. It's a mill with lots of studios of creative people, artists and sculptors and, I don't know, mosaic makers and all sorts of things. And someone was throwing away a huge canvas, it was all painted, it was a huge canvas, absolutely massive. Being the womble that I am, I said, oh, I'll have that. And painted it with a black chalk paint, and it's the best backdrop I've got in the studio. I love it. Also because it's portable, because it's on a great big wooden board. I can move it where I want. So that means I can move it, put it in front of the window. You don't have to spend a fortune on studio gear and backdrops. Quite often I'll go to the fabric shop and get some fabric offcuts and use it as a backdrop. So if you haven't got any lights and you want to try something, you just need a window and some sort of backdrop, either a wall or some fabric from the fabric store. So I do quite often do natural light in the studio, just because it's got a different feel to it. It's got a more natural feel to the highly controlled lighting that I do quite often do. So one light, again, I try and keep it as simple as possible. I am quite a simple girl, and I will use the least lights that I need to get the job done. So this is one octabox. It's feathered to camera left, so she's looking at it, so you can see the catchlight in her eyes. It's the 47-inch octabox. It's a Pica 200 from Pixapro, and it's on a quarter power. So again, if you've got one light and it's a speed light, you can do this lighting setup. I always start on a quarter power and pretty much stay there. I hardly ever change from a quarter power. It seems to be where I need to be with shooting in the studio. The octabox as I say, is to the side of the model. The bottom of the octobox is usually level with the chin, so it's a bit higher than you would expect. And having it slightly higher gives quite nice definition under the jawline. It's flattering quite often. The things that women say to me is, "Oh, can you watch my double chin?" and "Oh, my waist." And those are the two areas that people always mention to me. So the chin we can do with lighting a bit higher. The other thing we can do is shooting a little bit higher. We can ask the model to just push the chin forward a little bit, which feels weird, but actually looks right in camera. So you get a nice definition. Or the other trick is to press the tongue to the roof of the mouth, and it just lifts the chin as well. It just takes double chin away a little bit. So there's ways around it. But yeah, in this case, so the octobox is quite high for a nice definition under the chin. We've got nice catch lights in the eyes. My standard studio settings, which rarely change, f8, ISO 100 and 160 on the speed. Very easy lighting with an octobox. It's a feathered light, which means it isn't pointing directly at her. It's pointed across her, which means she just gets the soft edge of the light. So, and you don't get any great big shadows behind on the backdrop, which I'm obsessive about. I hate shadows behind unless I'm doing film noir. So I always feather my lights. So that's just pointing it across her to the other side of the wall, not directly at her. Two lights. So again, this is a similar lighting setup as before, but we've got a hair light at the back because she's dark hair, dark background, dark hat. If we didn't put that light at the back, then she would just blend into the black background and you wouldn't see where she ended and the backdrop started. So with darker haired clients, you do need an extra bit of light. Blondes are way easier to shoot, especially on dark backgrounds, because you can see where the hair ends and the background starts. But the darker the hair, the more light you need, so you can see that separation. Rim lighting, this is quite popular actually because it's very moody, it's quite arty. It's the kind of thing you could maybe put on your wall in your bedroom, but people wouldn't really know it was you. Sometimes you can't see the face in it. It's quite body centric. Quite often clients want some, anonymous images. So can't quite see it's them, but it's celebrating their body and who they are. So this sort of thing works in that case. So it's two strip boxes. So they're the two sort of long rectangular shaped modifiers either side of the model, and it is very moody. It's very shadowy and a little bit arty, but it's very body centric. You have to get the poses right to get the shape within the body. Fine art lighting, again, this is quite popular. I do like fine art style. This is one of the things that I teach with session days. So it's a very painterly, very classic style. I've done quite well with images in fine art style. I think because I think people don't expect underwear to be shot in a fine art style. It's a sort of it's two things you don't expect to see in the same image. But I like that. I like to shoot with classic lighting, but with lingerie, because people don't expect it. So it's warm tones, it's got a bit more contrast, it's got a little bit of drama in there as well. It's very reminiscent of the 17th century painters. This is two lights. So the light as before, which is feathered from the side, always my go-to. But this time we've got another light hanging from above on the boom arm. And it just fills in some of the shadows, not too many shadows, but fills in some of the shadows to give it that sort of that painterly feel. At the end of the presentation, I'll run through some of my my award-winning images and just briefly tell you what it is and how I lit it. But I've had some success with that lighting style. The noir lighting. A lot of bookings for this recently, actually. I don't know, there seems to be a resurgence in sort of film noir and lingerie style. So very contrasty black and whites. So it's film noir, it's very vintage Hollywood, very directional light. quite harsh light, actually. Not always the most flattering. I mean these four are gorgeous, they're beautiful models. You really have to get the angle of the light right to within an inch or two. It's really precise lighting. It takes a little bit longer to set up. As I said before, blonde's easier to shoot, particularly in noir style. If you've got dark-haired model, then you do need that hair light to separate them from the background. And yeah, just a little bit more drama to these, and again, something a little bit more unexpected to the classic boudoir style of sort of lying on the bed. And gel lighting, again, quite a modern style. I don't use an awful lot of gels in my work. If you've never used gel lights before, it's worth having a play around with them. So if you don't know what they are, they're basically like bits of cellophane that go over your speed light, and you can go to town with it and change the color of your background. Put lights here, there, and everywhere. Up lights, down lights, side light. You can really go to town with it. So the one on the right, that's a grey backdrop, green gel on the background. So if you just want to buy one backdrop, get a grey one and get some gels. You can change it to any color you want. So that's got the green gel on the background. It's got some blue. It's got some pink, and there's a lot going on there. In the middle, it's very subtle. So there's a very subtle blue gel and a very subtle red gel on the edges with the white light in front. So you can barely tell it's there, but it's there. And it does actually change an image quite a bit. It gives it a more of a slightly modern, fashiony feel to it. If you do portraits or anything, or fashion or anything like that, and you haven't played with gels, it's worth experimenting just to see if you can get a different feel in your image. Quite often you need a shiny fabric or some oil on the skin. You need something to reflect. If she's wearing velvet, which doesn't reflect anything at all, you're not going to see the colour. So often we'll put baby oil on the skin. They're wearing something shiny like latex or leather or something that's going to reflect the light, so you can see what the colour is doing on the body. The one on the left is just changing the white balance. So I usually shoot auto white balance, sometimes shoot flash white balance. I'm quite obsessive about skin, so I try and match skin as closely as possible to the person in front of me, to what's on the back of my camera. So I'll tweak my lights, change my white balance just to make sure the skin is correct. On this left image, I changed the white balance to incandescent lighting, I think, which really cooled it down, gave it a really edgy, cool feel. So again, depending on what you're doing, play around with the white balance in camera, because it can give it a whole different feel without doing too much. And then these little sort of bokeh bits are sequins held in front of the camera, shooting through sequin stickers, just to give it a bit of something else going on in the image. So you can really get creative with these things. Now, posing. Posing's a minefield, and it really is an art form. This is what really can make or break an image, and this is how you need to understand how to flatter a body, and you need to understand how to work with different bodies. Everyone's got a different body shape, and knowing some tricks and tips can make legs look longer and waist look smaller and all these things that we want as a woman. So as I mentioned before, client needs to be put at ease. They need to be feeling good. We know they look good because the hair and makeup artist spent 2 hours with them. So once they're feeling good, it's all about posing. So I will, rather than sort of trying to explain what I want them to do, I will just do it and show them how to do it and just say, you just copy this. So I will always demonstrate the pose, and even if you're a male photographer, you're just going to have to do it because it's the easiest way to show someone what to do. Watching tension in the mouth, the shoulders and the hands, as I mentioned before, they're always the giveaways. You want those relaxed as possible. Sometimes if people have got a bit of a belly, you don't want to say suck it in, because that's a bit rude. I usually just say nice and straight through the back. And when they go nice and straight through the back, they usually suck in the front as well. So it's polite ways to sort of get them to sit up straight, because actually It's a real workout posing, particularly boudoir posing. Models make it look really easy, and it's really hard work, and everyone's exhausted by the end of it. You're sucked and tucked and twisted and turned, and it is a workout. Clients are really surprised. Really long legs. So the trick for really long legs is never to have the legs coming towards you in camera, always have them going to the side. If you have them going to the side, everybody looks about 7 foot tall, no matter what size you are. So anything coming towards the camera is going to look shorter and fatter. We don't want that as women. Anything that's moving away is going to look slimmer and longer. So I have everyone with legs going off to the side, makes legs look really long, with no exception. Arms is another thing that I have people mention to me. So a lot of women are conscious of the upper arm. So having the arm slightly away from the body slims the arm down. If it's pressed into the body, it will look bigger. If you have it slightly away with a bit of visual space by the body, it does slim it down quite a lot. Always want curves at all times. So whether your client is a size 6 or a size 26, we want curves at all times. We want the waist to be on show. We want these curves. So I'm always looking to pose, excuse me, to show off these curves. Cropping at the narrowest point is always flattering. So on a woman, our narrowest point usually is our waist. I will also, quite a popular crop of mine is mid-thigh. Never crop across the hips or across the chest. That will make us look bigger. No woman will thank you for making us look bigger than we are. So cropping at the narrowest point is a really big one for making the figure look as good as it possibly can. I've mentioned before about shooting slightly higher than eye level if someone's conscious of a double chin. Just a little bit higher gives a bit of definition under the chin. If they are conscious of a double chin, I would never shoot lower than eye level, because that will just draw attention to this area. If a client is conscious of their size and they are bigger, more plus size, then you can get them to lean their head forward just a tiny touch towards camera. Now, in real life, that feels weird, but actually it puts everything in proportion. So their head will be in proportion to their body. If someone's a little bit bigger, sometimes the head looks a bit small compared to the body, but having them just tip towards the camera, the head looks bigger, therefore it's more in proportion, therefore the body looks smaller, if that makes sense. But it does feel kind of weird to do in real life, but in camera it works. Watching the details, so twisted straps, the necklace that's gone around the wrong way, the piece of hair that's hanging right across the face, is going to be a nightmare to edit. All these details, I really do stop and look at everything before I shoot, because there'll be one thing and afterwards you'll think, oh, for God's sake, why didn't it would have taken me 1 second to sort that out, and now I've got to edit it all off. So make sure all these little things are correct. Quite often when clients are posing, they'll be resting on their hand, and they'll have their hand coming towards me, but that makes the hand look the arm look really short and the hand look really big. So having everything on a plane, so I don't know if you can see me, but having the hand going that way as opposed to coming that way, you can see it, my hand looks massive there, as opposed to going that way. Trying to keep everything in proportion. The camera does distort a little bit, so just be mindful of what's coming towards you and what's moving away from you, and to try and keep it as flattering as you possibly can. Longer lens is always more flattering if you can. Sometimes shooting on a shorter lens will distort the body a little bit, make the face a little bit caricature-y, nose a bit bigger. So if you're on a 50mm, you're quite close, the nose is a bit bigger and things are a bit distorted. If you possibly can, go way back and zoom in, which tends to keep things a bit more in proportion. But yeah, it's a whole, I think that's the skill more in boudoir photography than anything, is knowing how to pose a body to flatter. From pointing the toes, it literally is, it's top to toe. There's no hiding things under a dress. It's all on show. You have to make sure it's lit well. You have to make sure it's posed well, and it's a real skill that I don't know, if you haven't done it, that people appreciate how much skill goes into it to make these women look as good as they do. I mean, some of them look fantastic in real life anyway, but not all of them do. Moving on to locations. So I tend to shoot mostly in the studio. I know other photographers will shoot in a client's house, or quite often in a hotel. Trying to find a hotel who will let you shoot boudoir photography can be tricky. I have tried, and I've had responses such as, "Oh no, we don't allow nudity in our rooms." Sorry, but I think there might already have been nudity in your bedrooms, but I think they just assume that you're shooting porn or you're doing something really unsavory. So I don't know the answer to getting around that one, unless you just book it and don't tell them. But I don't know where that fits with I don't know, copyright decor. I don't know. Other photographers do it, so it must be possible. But yes, if I've mentioned it to a location before, quite often it's a, oh no. So I tend to stick mostly to the studio. I do have it's like a brown leather sofa that folds down into a bed, so I make it look like a bed. I don't use the bed an awful lot, which is kind of rare for a boudoir photographer. I use it for the white sheet shoot, so that the example above. So for the white sheet shoot, I will. I don't much like the idea of, I know this may be unusual for a boudoir photographer, lying on the bed. I'm not lying on the bed waiting for my man. I want it a bit more powerful, a bit more empowering than that. So I don't often use the bed, to be honest, but I've got it there if I need it. I don't have a full boudoir set in the studio that's permanently up, because I shoot different genres from the studio. I teach from there, and there's no way I could have a full bed there. So sofa's fine. It looks like a real bed when it's laid down with the sheets on it. I do use an awful lot of chaiselongs. I've got a slight chaiselong obsession. Just because you can get so many different poses from it, whilst it still looks quite empowering. You know, you can sit, you can lie, you can recline, you can be every which way on it. There's so much to go at. Also suits my aesthetic, because I've got a slight vintage style, so it does sit well with what I do. But you know, you can use the sofa, a soft chair, anything like that. There's lots of different poses that are possible. The white sheet shoot, as I mentioned, is very, very popular, particularly with slightly older clients who don't want to show too much, but you know, it's all in the mind with the white sheet shoot. You're not seeing anything, but the implication is there. I try and shoot as much variety as I possibly can on each shoot, just because I want them to buy more. Almost every client does upgrade their package. And that's not because I sell to them. I don't sell at all. I'm a terrible, terrible salesperson. In fact, I don't do in-person sales. They get an unedited proofing gallery to choose their images, and then they usually upgrade from that. So they're happy enough with what they're seeing that they're prepared to upgrade themselves. So I'll try and shoot. If they bring 4 outfits, I'll try and shoot 4 outfits. They bought them for a reason, so I will try and do it. And just try and get as much variety as possible. I try and go for a variety of, you know, full body, 3/4 shots, close cropped in shots, just so that they've got a lot to choose from. I also learned early on that I cannot choose for clients. You know, I know some photographers will show them 4 images and of which they can choose 3. I wouldn't do that. So I will show them anything that's not a test shot, that's flattering, anything that they might like, I'll show them, because you know, there could be a slight tweak, like of an inch of a pose. They'll be like, that one. When it's almost, they know their face, they know their body infinitely more than I know it. They know what they want. You know, I wouldn't dare choose for them. So I show them anything that's that I think they might like, and then they've got a lot to go at. They've got a lot to choose from. The slightest micro change in the expression of the body, they will love or hate. So I show them pretty much everything. Post-shoot privacy. So it's something that clients are really quite concerned about, particularly with boudoir photography. A lot of my clients are, lecturers and nurses and people who've got sort of responsibilities in society, and they don't want their images out there. Most of what I shoot, I'm not allowed to show, which is fair enough. So I will always back up the images straight away on a secure hard drive. As soon as I walk in the front door, they're back. The first thing I do is back up the images. The password, the proofing gallery is always password protected, so only they've got access to their online gallery. I try and send the proofing gallery usually that night, actually, when they're on a high. They've still got the makeup on, they're feeling good. I'll send them the gallery while they're still on a high from the shoot. Not going to wait a week until they're a bit bored of it. Send it straight away so they can get looking at the images. They're always keen to see the images anyway. And hardly any client will let me share. So whilst I do ask, they get a pre-shoot questionnaire, and I do ask in there if they want me to share the images and tag them, share the images and keep it anonymous, or keep them private. Almost everyone keeps them private, which is a shame, because it means that my portfolio isn't as diverse as I would like it to be. But at the end of the day, I have to go with what I'm allowed to use. So most of the work doesn't get seen, which is frustrating. But yeah, I do get a lot of questions about privacy and who sees the images, and who's going to be there during the shoot. So during the shoot, once the makeup artist has done her work, she goes. It's only me and the client. I don't outsource any editing. It's only ever me. It's all kept on a secure hard drive. I don't keep it on the camera. Once it's edited, it's off the computer. It doesn't sit on the computer either. So it's a fairly safe and secure way that the images are not going to end up out there at all. Editing. So obsessive about skin. I really do try and get skin as correct as possible in camera. So making sure that it's not overexposed and it's too white. If it's underexposed, it's sort of yellowy. Making sure the white balance is correct. I do use skin retouching software called Portraiture, not to be confused with Portrait Pro. Portraiture is used by a lot of professionals. It's very, very good. If you do a lot of portrait work, it's worth spending the money on. I can't remember how much. It's not cheap, but it does save me an awful lot of time. Obviously, with boudoir, there's a lot of skin. It used to take me forever to get it all edited. I try and keep it looking natural as possible, but at the same time, there's an expectation that they want to look like the girls in my portfolio. So again, I give clients a choice of how much retouch gets done. My signature retouch is skin, tidying up any distractions. It's usually my floorboards. Actually, I usually spend longer tidying up my floorboards than anything else. So they can choose how much retouch they want done, but actually I don't do a crazy amount of retouch. They look good straight out of camera because I try and light it as best I can and pose it as best I can. I only ever retouch what won't be there next week. So if it's a spot, a cut, a bruise, and it won't be there next week, I'll get rid of that. If it's something that's part of them, I'll leave it. So this model here is a model called Scarlett Lux. She's got quite a big birthmark on her chest. I'd leave that. That's her. That's part of her. That's permanent. That's who she is. Unless she said to me, actually, can you take that off? I would never just go ahead and remove anything that was part of somebody, because actually it could be a bit offensive. Someone did once say to me, I don't like my moles. Can you get rid of my moles? Okay, that's fine. If you told me to get rid of your moles, that's fine. I can do it. But generally, if it's part of who they actually are, then I would leave it. Never HDR a female image or increase the structure or increase the saturation. You're just going to make a woman look more rugged, and a woman wants to look more rugged. Want to keep it as sort of as soft and pretty as we possibly can. You can get away with HDRing a male face or increasing the structure a bit on a male face, but not on a female face. We don't want to see the wrinkles we haven't even got yet. So keep it Yeah, keep it simple. If you're not going to use skin retouching software, I used to clone on a low opacity. So on, you know, wrinkles across the forehead, I would clone on a low opacity over the wrinkles. So the wrinkles were still there, they just weren't quite so obvious. I want my people to look, I want my subjects to look like my subjects, just a polished version of them. I don't want to do too much that it doesn't look like them, or anything that's overly retouched can be quite offensive, I think, sometimes, because these are beautiful women. They're beautiful when they come in, and they're beautiful when they go out, and that's how I want them to be. So there's not a crazy amount of retouch that goes on. I would never reshape a body. The only time I would fractionally adjust is if there's a little bit of, if the underwear's a little bit tight and there's a bulge, and it's a little bit unflattering, but that's because the underwear doesn't fit properly, not because her shape isn't correct. I dodge and burn an awful lot. I really do dodge and burn a lot. So I darken down anything that I don't want to see too much of, or anything that I don't want to draw attention to. So if they've said to me, tummy, I'm not going to warp it down, I'm just going to darken it down. I will already have tried to light it that way in camera. But if I think, oh yeah, would I like that? I always ask myself, would I like that? If that was my picture, would I be happy with that? So I darken bits that I think we don't want to draw attention to, and lighten up anything we do want to draw attention to. So for me, it's the face. It's always the face. So the lightest part of any image, boudoir or otherwise, or portraiture, is always the face for me. I want you to look at the face. I want you to look at the face, into the eyes, and then look at what she's wearing. I don't want you to look straight at the, I don't know, the bra or the bum, or, you know, it's all about the face for me. So the lightest part is always the face. Watch the white balance. So just make sure it's not too yellow or too blue. Make sure the skin looks like the skin of the person. Tweak it if you need to. For black and whites, I use Nik FX. I've got my own preset set up. I use the baseline Nik FX, whatever their baseline is, and then I've tweaked it and then saved it so that all of my black and whites across the whole brand are going to be consistent. So my blacks are black, the whites are white, and there's sort of every shade of grey in between. You don't want a black and white that's too wishy-washy, that's too sort of grey. So I've got that set up, so it's going to be consistent, it's going to be on brand, and it's easy to do because it's ready to go. Looking for the highlights, squinting at the screen, you'll be able to find your highlights. Sometimes, you know, when you're looking at an image and you've been looking at it for ages, you think this is great, this is a really good edit. You can't see the wood for the trees. What I will do is do my edit, go away, have my tea, leave it to the next day, whatever, come back to it, and then just double check it. Sometimes when you're in it, you're not fully seeing it because you spent too long looking at it. So when you look at your edited image for the second time, note to yourself, what's the first thing that I'm looking at in this image? And if it's not the face, or it's not the thing that you want to be looking at, then there's a distraction somewhere in it. Squinting at the screen, you'll be able to pick out where the highlights are. Or the other tip is to turn the image upside down, and you'll be able to see where the highlights are without your brain trying to read what the actual image is. Your brain will just be looking for light and shade. So it's a way to find out where the distractions are in your image. And quite often desaturating, even just a tiny amount, can often improve a portrait if you're not going to do an awful lot of retouch. With my style being slightly vintage, I do tend to desaturate just a little bit, just to take out some of the tones in the skin and give it a slight vintage look. But if you're just doing portraiture, even a slight desaturation can give it a more classic feel, I think. I mean, I'm only talking about a couple of percent, just a tiny nudge of the slider can help. Not so much that it looks desaturated. Just going to touch on publications. So whatever you shoot, don't be afraid to submit for publication. Find magazines that suit your style. So whatever you're shooting, find a magazine that sort of fits that fits with what you do, whatever genre that is that you shoot. And go onto the website, check out their submissions guidelines. Quite often there's a section on the website somewhere that is asking for submissions. At the end of the day, editors are looking for content, and they've got to find content every month. And if you can present them with something, that's making their job a lot easier. So do have a look at the submissions guidelines. Photography magazines, they're often looking for, reader spotlight or look at my kit, or there's all these sort of sections that you can apply for as a photographer, and they need people to fill these slots. That's the sort of regular slot in the magazine, and they need people to submit information for that. The other technique is to engage with their social media. So the Canon magazine, Photo Plus, I think I follow them on Instagram, and they put something on what Canon kit do you? It was just a generic question, what Canon kit do you use? And I just commented, oh, I use blah, blah. And I think they'd seen my work, they'd seen my comment, then must have gone and had a look at my work. And then I got booked for a spread in the magazine, just because I think I put myself under their nose a little bit. And it was really good. So I've just worked with them again for the third time, and it's a paid shoot, and you get a big spread in the magazine. It's great. It's really good. So you just have to sort of get spotted by people, really, by sort of, engaging with social media, putting your work forward. Don't be afraid to ask, make the editor's life a bit easier, and you can get your work out there. And there's nothing better than going into Smith's and seeing a front cover that you've shot. It's a nice feeling. Okay, so this is the last section now. It's my images that have sort of got the most awards. So I'll just briefly, what time is it? 8:45. I'll just briefly tell you who it is and how I shot it, and a little bit about it. So this is one of my most successful images. This is a model called, on Instagram, Blossom and Buttercups. Her real name is Sam. Phenomenal model, absolutely gorgeous. This is one I was really proud. I love the image. I mean, because she's fabulous. Not necessarily my photography. She is a fantastic model. But this one got me a silver award with the Guild of Photographers. But it got me in the top 10 portrait of the year, which I was really pleased with, because it's quite a provocative image. It's not a sort of classic studio portrait. It was taken outside. It's lingerie, and I thought, yeah, doing it for the boudoir photographers out there. So this was still one of my favorites, and yeah, I'm happy with that one. This one, another silver award. This is Ivory Flame model. This is in the studio. This was actually just a test shot, actually, for an event that I was running. But again, the power of my work actually is in the beautiful models. I mean, she's another phenomenal model to work with. Very, very graceful and very elegant. So yeah, just a test shot, but again, it worked out really well, and I do like that one. Another silver award. This is Rachel Francis, a model that I work with quite a lot. She is a sort of vintage pin-up in Manchester. She's another very good model. And this was shot, I think this was just one light, feathered from the right-hand side. I do like hats in images, particularly for boudoir work. I do use hats quite a lot. I quite like playing with light and shadow. I like lips. A lot of my work has the red lips, red nails, and I like that sort of, you can't quite see everything. Who is it? Who is she? So I do use quite a lot of hats in my work. I do have some hats in the studio. Another hat. So I get this is one of the first images I took when I was sort of learning studio lighting. So the two lights here, the light, as I mentioned before, at the back for the hair light. But again, I do like the classic red nails, red lips. It does make a big difference when you've got a professional hair and makeup artist involved. If you ask clients to do, some clients are really good with makeup, they'll do a great job, but just because a professional makeup artist is trained for studio makeup, which is different from real life makeup. And it does make a difference in the images. It's much more polished and actually a lot less retouch because the face is perfect already. You can't really see the face here, but generally speaking, the face is perfect. You don't have to do anything with it because the makeup artist has done all the work with the makeup. This is another one of Blossom and Buttercup's. She's very, very good. This is a good example of having the legs going off to the side. She looks about 9 foot tall. And it's just a case of, having the legs going off to the side. I was shooting a little bit lower because she wanted that edgy, powerful, strong woman feel to the image. The white shirt, it works well. It's got a silver award, and this has done quite well for me as well. Now this one was a sort of fine art style. Model's called Emma Rouge on Instagram. Quite a simple pose. What I was told is if it bends, bend it with posing. So photography judges don't like straight arms and straight things. They like everything bent. So great example of how to bend everything in a picture, and it just sort of keeps the eye moving around the image, and it keeps it contained within the image. There's no sort of straight lines to block the image. This is what I was told anyway. So this is an example of the rim lighting that I talked about before. So 2 strip boxes either side of her, just to rim light the outline of her. I usually would do these in black and white, but actually I quite like this one in color because the tones are quite monochromatic anyway. That one got me a bronze award. This is an example of not how to pose with the straight arm. I got told off by my mentor for having that straight arm. It's blocking the image apparently. So this is a model called Baby Daisy. She's a burlesque performer. She's fabulous. She's gorgeous. And this was just some promo for a Valentine's shoot. But she's got such a fabulous look. We've got all the curves going on, but they just didn't like that straight arm. So I learned from that one. Another bronze award, Nicole. I like the tattoos with the green. I do have a lot of velvet curtains in the studio. They make a great and cheap backdrop. So curtains are an easy way to get to change the backdrop very, very easily. So another of my chaise obsessions, got lots of chaise longs, and velvet curtains. Another thing that I use an awful lot in the studio. So Mira, this is a really simple setup. So she's just sitting on a black box, one light. I think it's my go-to lighting setup, which is one octabox feathered to the left-hand side. And I just like the serene look on her face and all the tattoos there. This is Millie Dollar. She's another burlesque performer. This again was a test shot for a noir workshop that I was running. I actually preferred it in colour, even though we were shooting for noir. My favourite chaise, my red chaise, the red velvet curtains, and it's boudoir-y. There's leg on show, but it's dressed. She's got the clothes on. It's got a nice vintage Hollywood feel about it. This was a light suspended above her, so the light was hanging above, so her face had to be up towards the light, hence the body position. This is an example of shooting outside on location. So very experienced model called Mary Jean. I wanted to do a Helmut Newton style shoot for a long time, and she's like, yeah, well, let's do it. So she came to Manchester. We're ready to go outside and shoot, and it absolutely poured down. With it being Manchester, it was pouring down. I was like, oh no. And she's like, no, well, let's just do it anyway. She spent ages doing hair and makeup. I'm like, you're going to look like a drowned rat by the end of it. No, let's do it. So she made us go out and do it. And we were on the I'm in central Manchester. We were on the tram tracks. So I had an assistant with me on the day, and tram, as we walked to the side, tram go past, everyone waving and looking, then get back on the tram tracks. And it was, I really like the images. actually the rain adds something to them. I don't know how she's brave enough to stand like that in central Manchester with trams going past, but she's braver than me. But anyway, it was a really good shoot. It was funny, and when I post it on Instagram, she always puts tram. There's trams flying everywhere. But anyway, it was a fun shoot, and I do like the image. This is a model called Threnodian Velvet Morgana. This was at the Oxford Conference of Corsetry. So I think they don't do it anymore. This is from a couple of years ago. They used to have a conference every couple of years for corset makers who used to fly in from all around the world, and it was sort of the elite corset conference for the world, and it was held at Jesus College in Oxford. Fabulous location, and we could use the library and the quadrant and the chapel, and it was a fabulous location to shoot in. And of course, working with all these corset designers, you couldn't go full underwear, in the chapel and whatnot, but corset dresses, it was fantastic. This is Rachel Francis again. I like this image. It was the cover for my exhibition that I held. And this was one of the occasions where I was shooting 1.4 with the 50mm, just to get that sort of blurry softness to it. It's got sort of a vintage feel, just sort of focused on the eyes, and doesn't really matter what the rest of it does, just goes a bit blurry. But I like the feel of that one. I think that was natural light actually on a black background. Another example of fine art doing well. So the peacock chair that I got from eBay, and the fine art backdrop, fine art lighting, but underwear, so it's a little bit unexpected. And again, beautiful posing from Emma, the model. She really is very good, even down to her toes are pointed, and it does these little details. They make such a difference, and a lot of these models, you can learn so much from working with them. Their hands are always so graceful, always graceful. So the hand up by a face is very sort of balletic, and I owe my success to these beautiful professional models that I work with, because their posing is exceptional. And another one, which again was a test shot for a workshop that I was running, just a vintage vibe to it. Very simple, just reflected in a mirror. Quite a popular shot, and quite simple to do. You can do it at home with a mirror, but it works well. There we go. So photography session days, we run workshops, we do portrait training, we do studio lighting training, do creative classes, portfolio events. We're usually sold out. We're sold out for the year. We will be announcing 2023 events shortly. But if you're interested at all, if you're anywhere near the northwest of England, it's sessiondays.co.uk. You can take a look and see what we do. Any questions?
I'm trying to hold off just in case anybody else wants to jump in. Right, I'll go first then. Right, Emma, thank you very much. There was a lot of really good information in that. The images are absolutely stunning. See, even the simple little things, like see when you did that with your hand in the camera, you can see within a couple of seconds how much of a difference that actually makes. And I think certainly for myself, posing, I don't do boudoir, but I've done a number of portraits, and I've worked with burlesque dancers and things like that. And we've done shoots more for promotional in terms of images that are coming up and so on. And just little hints and tips like that, I think, can make such a big difference. The posing is definitely something I need the help with, if you like. Yeah, I think if you're not too confident with posing, it really is worth working with a professional model. So for the first year, when I started with studio work, I would hire a studio, fiddle around with lighting, didn't know what I was doing. It was dark art. I just thought, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing here. Sort of just experiment with lighting, but I'd pay models just because I could learn from them when I was starting. And you know, if you pay for an experienced model, it really is worth it, because you can learn so much from them. Now, fortunately, I'm in a position where I don't have to pay for models, because they'll
come shoot with me, sort of on a collaborative basis, which is nice. But yeah, I think people underestimate the power of posing and how much it can either make a woman look fantastic or just make it an unflattering image. And there's all these little things you have to bear in mind. You have to be really on it. Whereas if I'm doing something in a long dress, you don't have to worry about the hands and the face. You don't have to worry about anything else. It's all hidden. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But it's all on show with Boudoir, so you have to be mindful of everything down to the toes.
How long do your sessions normally last then? So you've touched on how long the hair and makeup part lasts, and I know you try and fit in as much range as you can within the session themselves, but how long does the actual photography side of things last?
Most packages are for 2 hours. So usually by 2 hours, they're starting to flag a little bit. It's very physical, as I say. You're slightly twisted and turned, and it's a lot more tiring than I think clients anticipate.
Yeah.
So 2 hours is my usual package length. I do have my top package is 3 hours, but that's a long shoot, particularly if you're not used to shooting.
Yeah.
So 2 hours. So I basically take one client a day. I start at 10 a.m. I try and work it around school hours. I start at 10 a.m. hair and makeup for 2 hours, shooting with me for 2 hours, done, tidied up, school run. So yeah, it's one a day.
That's a good way to do it. Kristen, Hannah, anything for yourselves?
Yeah, I did have a couple questions. So within those 2 hours, about how many different backgrounds? I don't have any experience with studio. I mostly do outdoor landscape. So it was very interesting hearing about like using the different lights and the different angles that you use. That was very helpful to hear that. But about how many different backgrounds do you do in one section?
Yeah, it depends. It depends what they want. It's really helpful. So I try and get as much information from them before they come in, because the studio is quite small. And I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of chaise longues, and I'm always moving stuff around. So I don't want to be doing too much of that when the client's there. So I try and get as much information as possible so I can have the studio as ready as possible. And then I move anything that I'm not going to be using kind of out into the corridor. So I try and get them, if they can, send me a mood board or to send me my images that they're drawn to, because it really helps me know the style that they're drawn to, the lighting style that they want, the feel of the images. So if I can get a mood board, or they can download images off my website and send them to me, it's really helpful. So usually I do maybe 4 different backdrops. I want to do variety because I want them to buy more. Yeah. But I also want to shoot whatever they've brought with them. So if they usually tend to bring 3 or 4 different looks with them. And I think, well, if they've gone to the effort of bringing it, they like it, and they want to, they want to use it. So I'll try and match one outfit with one backdrop. And then they'll get changed and I'll change the backdrop. So they've got some variety. Having said that, there was a client last week and we did about 8. I was exhausted. I kept saying, okay, so last set, and she, no, I've got one more. And she kept pulling things out of the case. So I'm thinking, oh my word. Yeah, I like to keep the clients happy, but I'm not too strict. If we run over, we run over. As long as I can pick the kids up from school.
Makes sense. It's so much more detail, it seems, that goes into it than somebody that is just doing portrait like family, because you have to have somebody come in and do the hair and makeup. If this is okay to ask, if it's not, about how much do you charge for a session?
It depends on how many images they want. So the basic package is £290 and they get 3 images. So they don't get a lot. And the top package is 700 and they get 15 images. Most popular package is around 550 and they get 9 images. So even if they book the cheapest packet, I don't mind what they book when they start, because I know most of them are going to upgrade anyway, because I show a lot of images and they can't decide what they want, and I do quite a lot of variety. They really, and I do that on purpose. They really can't decide which ones they like more, so that I know whatever they book to start with, they're going to upgrade. And they're usually somewhere in the middle. The top package has got a lot more popular recently. It used to be about 900, and I used to include champagne and chocolates and all this other stuff. And then someone said, oh, I would have booked that, but I don't like champagne and chocolates. And I thought, oh, hang on, I'm adding all these things in. People don't actually want that. So I took out all the extras, kept it at 700. I got loads of bookings. I thought, why didn't I do that before? I was trying to pad it out with other stuff that nobody wanted. So yeah, that's more popular than it has been before, and it's nice. It's always nice to get the top package booked. But yeah, I always hope that they're going to buy extras without me. I just pray that they're going to buy extras without me actually selling anything.
Selling can be hard. I get it.
Oh, I'm not.
Thank you very much. I learned a lot.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, Hannah, last chance.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to take the time. I do have a question, but I just wanted to take the time to personally thank you, because you've been a major inspiration to my life over the last year. Because I've recently graduated university, and my final major project was solely taking inspiration from your work. I absolutely adored it.
Oh, fabulous! Thank you.
And because I've graduated and I'm going into the big adult world, how would you describe your own first year of doing this, or if you had any tips for the first year?
It's competitive. It's very competitive. I think generally speaking, anyone going into photography as a whole, because it's something that so many people like to do as a hobby and for fun. There's a lot of people who'll do for free what we're trying to charge for. And even the people who are charging, I mean, there's a competitor in Manchester who's very, very good. He does his shoots for free, and then tries to sort of upsell at the end. And I do not want to do that, because I'm a terrible salesperson. It's all my prices are there. There's no sale at all. If you like them, you buy them. If you don't like them, it's entirely up to the client. Take as long as you need to choose what you want and then buy what you want. And I want you to be happy with what you've got. I don't want you to be bulldozed into spending a load of money that you can't afford. So there's a lot of competition out there. The first year, I was running this business in conjunction with my other business, so there wasn't as much pressure on me to make this business work. Let me think. Tips. I think become known, and again, this is general advice for whatever anyone's doing. Become known. Find a style that works for you. It's a lighting style. It's a color. Really think about your style and what you're drawn to, and what, I mean, I haven't seen your work, so you may already have a really distinctive style. If you haven't, then it's worth thinking, do I like light and airy? Do I like dark and moody? Do you want to be really sexy? Is it more subtle? Or I think I know my images and my brand and my portfolio inside out, so I like rich tones. I like sort of reds and dark greens and dark blues. There's a color theme that goes throughout my work. I like strong, empowered women, and I will never shoot. I do pin-up style. I never shoot bent over a kitchen or bent over a vacuum. I don't feel sexy when I'm vacuuming. I can't imagine anyone else does. I want strong women. I would never shoot a woman in a fetish style tied up. Doesn't fit with what I want to do. I want to show women in a subjugated position. this is just for my brand. I like dark. I much prefer dark and moody lighting. I like cinematic lighting. I like a bit of drama in it, and it's a lot of different things that I hope make up my style and my brand. So find a style that works for you and become known for that style, and kind of stick with it. And this is also what I did with my child business. I became known for shooting under fives, very natural, very cute, very happy little kids. But I was in a very small niche. I was a very small niche area. And it's the same with the boudoir work, in that I do, it's not overly sexy actually what I do compared to other boudoir photographers, but I want it to be elegant. I want it to be timeless. It's got a slight vintage edge, but quite strong women. And that's the theme that I wanted throughout my work. I will always prefer to shoot dark and moody. Obviously, if a client wants light and airy, I've got to shoot light and airy. But I don't. It's difficult to sort of say how I'm seen in the industry, because I'm in it, and I don't know how other people see me. But I think I've got a style that people say they can recognise my work, and that's why they'll come to me. But it's a very small niche area that I'm in. You know, vintage edged boudoir. I mean, that's a very niche area to be shooting in. So get known for your style. Yeah, competitors, it's difficult. It is a competitive world. You have to be all over social media. To start with, all of my work was coming from Instagram. Now it all comes from the website. So do get a good website, get some good SEO behind your website. And keep adding pages to your website, because I am finding, even I blog, I don't know who reads the blogs, maybe no one reads the blogs, but it's good for my SEO. And everybody finds me through the website now. So something's working on there. More advice. I don't know where you shoot from. I was hiring a studio, and clients are nervous when they come. They've not done it before. I was hiring a studio. It was owned by a male photographer, and I'd say, right, close set. I've got a boudoir client coming in, and he'd end up walking through the set, or I'm just going to go and get my laptop. It's no, because I'm shooting here. This is a private shoot. The studio was filthy. It was dirty. There was beer and knickers and crisps on the floor, and it was, and I'm thinking, oh, that's representing my brand. You know, it just didn't fit with my ethics and my brand. I want the brand to be quite high end, and it to be a luxury experience, and it just wasn't. So I had to get my own studio, and it's small, but I can do everything that I do there. Clients, I never show the full studio on social media, so clients come in and go, oh, I thought it was a bit bigger, because they think I've got loads of different sets. It's just that I move everything. I'm literally like, my second career could be a removals man, because I'm like moving furniture all day, every day. So I just talked an awful lot. I don't know if that answered your question at all.
No, that's been really, really helpful. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. If you think of anything, or you need any help sort of afterwards, just send me a message. I'm always happy to help from the experience that I've had. It is a fantastic career. I absolutely love what I do. I do need more days in the week, to be honest, but I love everything that I do, and it's very rewarding. It actually is. It's got a bad reputation, but it's a very rewarding career.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, it's nice to find a fan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am like fangirling hard right now.
I'm very flattered. Thank you.
I've also picked right then. Right, Emma, it just leaves to me again, just say thank you very much for your time this evening. The images are absolutely fantastic. The style that you do is brilliant, and the way you've put it across tonight, same as you did last time, very easy to understand, very useful, very relevant. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining.
No problem at all. Thanks, guys.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.